All right, folks, here we are once again, another Braver Angels member meeting here at towards the end of the month of July. This is a cozier meeting, I'll tell you that. Fewer people here than at the last one, and that was very much to be expected. You may have noticed, but we made this meeting a little bit harder to sign up for. So I just want to just sort of fill you folks in really quick. We're looking to really sort of regularize and institutionalize Braver Angels monthly member meeting as something that brings together the larger member community. And so, we want to get folks accustomed to it, but we also want it to be, in general, a members only meeting. We've got a lot of folks who subscribe to Braver Angels newsletter and content and so forth, who don't necessarily always become members. I mean, at some point, many of them will, right? And that's a fantastic thing. But we've wanted the member meeting itself to be something that really gives an exclusive sort of benefit to have a direct input into the work of Braver Angels for people who are signed up officially, who are paying their dues, et cetera. And so in an effort to do that, we took a few extra steps to make sure that you couldn't get in unless, you actually were registered as a member. That called for an extra step or two on the website to sign up and so forth. And so, we're looking for the most efficient ways to be able to maximize turnout from our members while making this an exclusive benefit of membership. But really, that doesn't bother me none, because whether it's 500 of y'all or 95, we've got good work to do and a good time to have just by being here with each other. And so very grateful for you folks and eager to see our ranks continue to grow. I will tell you all that we are 11,000 members strong overall at the moment. And so maximizing our participation in the field and online, et cetera, that's just what the work is about. So that being out of the way, I wanted to say something a little bit about sort of what brings us here this evening, kind of the larger context of it. We are here to hear about a fascinating and important line of Braver Angels work, which many of us may not be particularly familiar with. You will hear momentarily my dear friend, colleague, and brother of several years now, Mr. David Lapp, co-founder of Braver Angels, lead in a discussion of the work of the We the Peoples Project, alongside many of our incredible volunteers who are a part of this work. And what it centers on is uplifting the voices of working class Americans who don't always have an equal share of the spotlight when it comes to voicing their concerns and their priorities for our democracy. I'll let David and the gang say more about the particulars of that work. But one thing I want to say about Braver Angels is that we do have a deep commitment to reflecting America in terms of the people that we reach and the folks that we bring in the fold. Now, achieving partisan diversity, but also diversity across other dimensions, including class, is not necessarily an easy thing. When it comes to working class folks, of course, there are reasons why it can be difficult to make time for the sort of volunteer activities that we're committed to. But it's a deep priority of Braver Angels' work. Zooming out a little bit more, I'm cognizant of the fact that we are in a moment right now in American politics where the midterms are a few months away, but from deeply impactful Supreme Court decisions, conversations and hearings that are happening on Capitol Hill, inflation, the challenging economy. There are all sorts of things that make it harder for us as neighbors, as friends, as coworkers, colleagues, and fellow Americans to keep trust with one another, to be able to engage with each other in a way that respects our differences, because the stakes of our politics are so high. But for that reason, I salute you all the more for being here and being a part of our project, of this work, right? Because believe it or not, it is growing. Believe it or not, we do have serious momentum at Braver Angels in our work to seed a new norm of empathy and understanding and goodwill across our institutions and throughout the body politic writ large. Now it's slow, but like they say, do not disparage small beginnings. I am tremendously optimistic with respect to the impact that I believe we will be able to have in working together and getting to know one another and collaborating deeply together as friends and fellow Americans over the months and the couple of years to come. And so with that, I would like to turn things over once again to my dear friend and colleague, Mr. David Lapp. David, tell us a little more about why we are here, my friend.
Great. Thank you, John. And it's great to be with you all, fellow members, for tonight's member meeting. So we're here to talk about We the People's Project for about 10 minutes or so. And we have a whole team of leaders from We the People's Project team that are here. And you're going to be hearing from several of us during the presentation, but then also during the Q&A, maybe you'll get to hear from even more people. So We the People's Project began last spring as myself and several others set about to say, how could we help our Braver Angels reflect America when it comes to working class, blue collar people? Because Braver Angels, we weren't doing a very good job of bringing in those kinds of people. So about a year and a half ago, we set out to build We the People's Project. And this here is our leadership team. And during this presentation, you're going to hear from Wilk and Annette and Corey and Janelle. But most of those faces that you see on that leadership team are here tonight. And this leadership team, we're the people behind We the People's Project. And we're a team of people who see ourselves as working class, blue collar, part of Braver Angels, and putting on We the People's Forum and other related work. So I'm going to hand it over to Wilk Wilkinson. And Wilk, if you could just tell people who you are and where you're from, and dive right into it. I think you're muted, Wilk. Just have to unmute yourself.
Looks like he's not muted, but might be a microphone issue.
Try again, Wilk. Okay. While he's getting that situated, Wilk, just interrupt me when you're finished. So Wilk was one of the first people that I reached out to when we were building our team. And, it became apparent that that we were thinking similarly. And really the vision here is a politically and racially diverse group of working class, blue collar, everyday people who are helping to advance the Braver Angels mission of depolarization and bringing in other working class voices. Yes, like Wilk, bringing in working class voices like Wilk. So Wilk, I'll let you take it away from here. I just started explaining the vision of our project.
Awesome. Yeah, I heard everything you said. Unfortunately, I'm not in my home studio today. I am on the road working, and I'm in a hotel. So if you hear a train going by, I am right next to the railroad tracks, and my setup is definitely not the same way that it normally is. But I am Wilk of the Derate the Hate podcast. As David was saying, I became part of the leadership team on the We the People's Project very early on when it was the Working People's Project. And it was one of those deals where we really wanted to get together with a group of, politically and racially diverse people, people from a working class background, or more specifically, as David said, people that are often spoke of but never spoken to. And it's really what it started as. And we started to build from there, started to get together this group of us that, again, racially diverse, politically diverse, class diverse. And it was really about trying to get the best group of people together that was a true representation of what America is, because the vast majority of Americans in this country do not have a 4-year degree. I mean, more than 65% of the nation's population does not have, and we're talking about working adults, obviously, do not have that 4-year degree, but only 11% of BA membership and only 11% of those that are joining the workshops actually do not have that 4-year degree. So Braver Angels understood that there was a need to get the voices of those that, again, are often spoken of, but not often spoken to. So that was the real important part of it. And what we've done is we've assembled a great group of people that have a very diverse mindset, a live different lives and different things, and we're in different parts of the country and from different races, ethnicities, and things. And it's just been it's been an incredible experience to just have those people, or all of us people rather. I mean, I'm one of us, obviously, but together speaking as a group, getting our voices out there, being heard, and having these incredible conversations. So yeah, it's something that I'm incredibly proud to be part of. Just getting out there, getting our voices heard, being part of something this important has been incredibly, it's been incredible for me. Really putting the unity back in community. That's something I'm going with nowadays. Putting the unity back in community again. So, anything else?
Well, one of the first things that we did was to say, okay, what are we going to do? And so we said, well, let's start a forum. Let's do it monthly. And we do it on Zoom. And we hear from speakers who see themselves as blue collar, everyday Americans who have experience about the relevant issues to talk about the issues of the day. And so we hear from a couple of speakers before opening it up to the audience. And so the format is that it starts with moderated conversations with usually 2 to 4 speakers, a politically diverse group of people. And then we go to, and we ask them also, what are how have your life experiences shaped your values and views about this, about your views about exposition? And then we ask, what are some concerns or reservations you have about your own views? And then we go to Q&E, questions and experiences. We open it up to the audience and we ask people to share their own experiences of the issue. And if they have a question for the speaker, they can ask a question. And then we go to action steps. And we ask, okay, what are the points of common ground, or what are the solution, or what are the action steps that we might individually take or together take to address whatever challenge it is that we're addressing. So that's We the People's Forum. It's usually 90 minutes to 2 hours. And we put the spotlight on everyday Americans in that forum. And I'm going to turn it over to Annette. Annette Ritter is one of our leaders from Little Orleans, Maryland, to talk about the last 3 We the People's Forums that we've done. So you'll get a sample of what it's like. So go ahead, Annette.
Hey, hi, I'm Annette. I am one of the people who don't usually get heard in public forums, and also do not have a 4-year college education, unless you call 2 associate's degrees a 4-year degree, which I suppose is debatable, right? But yeah, I was excited to join this group in 2016 as well, and so I'm just really excited to be part of something that is growing so fast and is becoming really pretty important in the scheme of things. One of our more recent We the People's Forums was called Rednecks, and we try to pick topics that kind of aren't the ordinary, but that do get talked about by average people on the street oftentimes. So Rednecks brought together 2 West Virginia brothers on what it means to be a redneck to them. Now, they originally grew up in the same place, but they diverged quite drastically during their lifetime. Kevin McCoy was a conservative coal worker who still lives in West Virginia. His brother, Brandon McCoy, grew up in West Virginia, but now he lives in Portland, Oregon, as an actor artist, and he leans further to the left than his brother does. Both agreed that they were proud to be rednecks and that we should stop stigmatizing people who see themselves that way. And it brought up some really interesting and pretty exciting conversation about, is it okay to stigmatize certain groups? I mean, is that really acceptable? Rednecks, for instance, people make lots of jokes about it, but is that really any different than some of the other stigmas that we have? And then we had one that I was personally very interested in. Is it time for a third party? We did try something a little bit different here, because you may recognize Andrew Yang But I must say that the reason that I personally wanted to hear from Mr. Yang is because I heard him on a podcast. And even though he had been a presidential candidate, I heard that man drop more than one F-bomb, and it impressed the hell out of me. So, I thought that's a real person there, that's a real person. So that was what got me interested in having.
That's our criteria for getting speakers on the We the People's Forum. How many F-bombs do they drop?
That's right. Those are real people there, folks. So we had Bo Copley, who was a conservative coal worker and a 28 Republican Senate candidate in West Virginia. And he was also featured in the documentary film Campaign of Miner Bill, miner as in coal miner, of course. And Jerry Silberman, who is also part of our We the People's group, is a politically independent labor organizer in healthcare. And he got very passionate. I was very proud of Jerry, the way that he handled his part of that. And of course, Andrew Yang, who is now the leader of the Forward Party. Our next one that is coming up is a very hot topic that you all, I'm sure, have probably weighed in on and have views about yourselves, particularly since the Supreme Court overturned Roe versus Wade. It's been a very hot topic, but we'd been talking about it even prior to that. So can we move forward on abortion is brought together because of this topic and because a lot of people are very interested in it, but we did want to have it from a viewpoint of real people who had experiences and very real passionate reasons for choosing the sides and the reasons behind their choices. Liberty, who also happens to be my daughter, yay, she moved from being a pro-choice advocate to pro-life several years after she had had an abortion. So she's got a very, very important story to show that you don't necessarily have to be one or the other. You can, sometimes we change our minds and our views on things based on life experiences. Maureen May is a nurse who moved from pro-life to pro-choice after an unplanned pregnancy and her experience as a maternal health nurse. So that should be a very interesting conversation. Janelle Burke is also part of our team, and she's an African-American community leader who is conflicted about the issue, as I think a lot of people really are. And after hearing from those first speakers, we'll open it up to the audience and invite participants to ask them questions or life experiences to share, about their experience with that issue. So these are the types of topics we do have.
And to give you a glimpse of the kinds of things that can happen after a forum, because we see that as the beginning of the conversation, Janelle Burke, if you could unmute yourself, and if we're able to hear from you, if possible. Janelle Burke organized a We the People's Forum about last year that brought together her chief of police and herself about what the conversations that she was having with the police chief about how to bridge that divide. So Janelle, do you want to tell us a little bit about just take 30 seconds to a minute to talk about the Common Ground workshop that's coming out of that forum.
Can you actually hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay, that's not normal, but okay. So this conversation pretty much came out of a curiosity of mine, which was, what can we do after the conversation? We've had plenty of conversations. We never have follow-up. So my follow-up was, what can be done? And I think the Common Ground workshop would have, was going to work best because we had emotions on the table. We had real, just raw emotion at that time, and lots of feedback from people who did watch it and were present. So I just felt like this was the next step, trying to get common ground and understanding where we still have a lot of curiosities.
So that will bring together up to 8 people who are in law enforcement and up to 8 African-American community members. So that's coming up August the 6th And we still have a couple slots for that if you're interested in a couple of law enforcement spots, if you're interested in that, if you have experience in law enforcement. So to wrap things up here, I want to just give you a sense of other things that are in the works. We have a Truth and Trust project involving Francis Collins. Yes, the Francis Collins, who was the director of the National Institutes of Health until the end of last year. He and Wilkinson are the co-directors of that project. It's all about, Wilk has completely opposite views of Francis on the issue of vaccines. Francis helped to get the vaccines, helped to develop the vaccines, and Wilk is very skeptical of it. And so they're working on a project to asking the question, can we build trust between ordinary citizens and public health leaders after the pandemic? We are looking forward to hosting in person, We the People's Forums, hosted by Braver Angels Alliances. So the things that we've been doing at the national level on Zoom, we'd love to begin doing at the alliance level. And then finally, building leaders, building further leadership by having We the People's Project liaisons in every state. And so that's not just the 12 of us who are acting as leaders, but we have it all across the country. So the sky's really the limit. There's a lot of good stuff that can happen after the workshop. The one thing that you might have seen on one of the slideshows is after that Redneck forum, we're now developing an we're piloting an urban-rural workshop that's going to happen in West Virginia, where people from the DC metro area are going to travel to rural Virginia, and we're going to have a common ground workshop to see what common ground we can find in terms of bridging the divide between rural and urban. And that came out of that We the People's Forum. So to wrap things up here, and then we're going to turn it over to John, Corey Zeck is here. She's part of our leadership team. And Corey, if you could just take 2 minutes just to say what being part of We the People's Project has meant for you. Corey, you're up.
Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Good. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Corey Zeck. I've been a part of the We the People's Project for about a year and a half now. I started very, very early on, and I had the honor and privilege of being part of our very first public We the People's Forum with Wilk, who you guys saw earlier. And I have loved being a part of this project ever since. It's taught me a lot about how to listen to people with opposite viewpoints, because I can be very, very opinionated. So it's really taught me how to listen. It's really taught me that how to look at things from the opposite perspective and really use my critical thinking skills that I've been taught all my life to look at things from a different point of view and say, okay, I see how we can get there. One of the biggest things that has come out of being a part of the forums, because I think I've done 3 and every time I love it. One of the biggest things that's come out of it is ultimately, even though you might lean one way or the other, or even if you're right in the middle, the goals that we all have are inherently the same. Just our ways of getting there are different. But inherently, we all want the same thing. We all want community. We all want to be able to come together, talk about issues that are really tough to talk about. Our upcoming forum on abortion, that's going to be a really tough conversation, but part of the We the People's Project is having respectful and meaningful conversations about topics that can be very emotionally charged, very tough to talk about. So I think We the People's Project has really helped me in that aspect. I've made some really good friends. I love everyone on the leadership team. I'm totally looking forward to where we can go with this in the future. And I am happy to be a part of it. And I cannot wait to do more forums. I'm currently working on a common ground workshop for homelessness, which is going to be really fun, I think. And yeah, there's so many ways to get involved. It's the first time I've ever been involved in anything that's even remotely political. And that's been really fun. It's been really fun to dig into that side of myself, and We the People's Project has been a huge part of that for me. So I'll turn it back over to you, David.
All right. And I'm going to turn it back over to John for Q&A. John, over to you.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you very much, David. Thank you, everybody. And Annette, I laughed a bit when you were talking about, I've got two associate's degrees, so maybe that counts. I'd say you have 4 years worth of degrees, Annette. So, that's all right. Actually, matter of fact, some of y'all might be surprised to hear this, but I myself am part of the 11% of Braver Angels members or program participants who does not have a 4-year degree. And, I certainly work with a whole lot of very smart people who do. Some of you all know, of course, I ran for Congress some years ago, and part of that was because I had something to say that I wanted to say. But that was about one of the last things that you can do in America, it seems like, that gives you a chance to shoot up the ladder a little bit that doesn't require a degree, And so, I'm a person who spent his life reading books and learning issues, but I wasn't all that good at doing my assigned homework and so forth. And so, if it wasn't for that, I don't know if I'd have been able to get here with y'all. So all that just to say that working class people matter. And even if you don't have a degree, doesn't mean you don't have a whole lot to contribute to the conversation. So with that, we want to move to Q&A. Now, let me say a couple of things to frame that up, and I'll try and be quick because we're a bit behind. So folks are welcome to ask questions about the topic that we've introduced, the We the People project, the work of it, anything you might want clarity on, anything you might want to know about how to get involved. You are also very much welcome to ask questions on any subject pertaining to Braver Angels work, or if you just want to render a comment or level of concern, or maybe you feel critically about something, that's okay too. We want this to be an open space for you to be candid about the things that you're excited about, the things that you're concerned about, and to ask us hard questions if you feel moved to do so. So just, all that just to say that the floor is yours. If you want to ask a question, feel free to click the raise your hand button or just raise your hand. And if you raise it visibly enough, I might be able to spy you out. Also, if you want to ask a question but don't necessarily want to ask it audibly, feel free to send a chat to one of our Q&A whips, and you will find them if you look at the in the list of names. You will find Q&A managers. They have Q&A before their names, and who you're looking for specifically are Elizabeth, Dennis, Crystal, and Martha. That's Elizabeth, Dennis, Crystal, and Martha. So you can chat your question to any of them, and again, just look for the Q&A next to their name. And they'll forward it to me, and I'm going to do my best to get to as many of your questions as I can. But in the interest of time, let us all be prepared to be a bit concise if we need to be, because I will have to cut people off if it goes into too lengthy a speech. But I'll try to be, try to be flexible here. And so let's go ahead and get going. I think the first horse out the gate was James Palumbo. James, let's go ahead and get you unmuted. Go ahead and ask your question or deliver your remark, good sir.
Nice to meet you. And
likewise.
Hats off to the work you guys are all doing. Just great stuff. I have a comment. The working class, blue collar considerations. I'm a college professor, obviously advanced degrees. And I rose to this level because I came from a working class background. I'm an ex-convict and got educated while I was in prison, my undergraduate degree. And one of my focuses has been to translate academic concerns into public discourse. So there's something that, rubs me a bit about hearing from working class people and using degrees as sort of a separation point. I'm not sure that's what you mean to do, but that's the way it's coming across. And having come from the streets and continuing to be in the streets and talking with people in the streets and having public discussions in the streets and at libraries, etc. I just wanted to make that note. I also have a proposal to make about a project, but I'll save that for another comment opportunity. But that's just what I wanted to say.
Sure thing. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, James. And yeah, I think that is a fair point. I think that in our work, we are frequently confronted with the reality that on the one hand, we're having to deal with an issue, with respect to the problem of polarization, that arises out of a tendency of our politics to reduce each other to labels that don't capture the, the full complexity of who we are, right? And sometimes people say like, well, Braver Angels, don't you guys traffic in some of those labels yourselves? And it's a real tension, because on the other hand, you sort of have to use the language at your disposal to sort of speak to some general dynamics. And I do think that, James, there's sort of I think a general truth in saying that, income, social and economic opportunities, I think, sort of tend to correlate to education, which correlates to class. But just to your point, it's by no means so neat or tidy a thing that we can just sort of adopt those categories and think we know everything. So, that's what I wrestle with in listening to your point. I do think it's a fair one. David Lapp or Wilk or anybody, do you guys want to add anything on top of that?
Yeah, let me actually invite Jerry Silverman from our leadership team to weigh in on this. Jerry, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Yeah, I think, I also went to college and learned that I learned very little there and learned a hell of a lot more on the job. I do think that there is a huge problem in this country of a pseudo meritocracy where people are automatically considered better or more valuable if they have a degree. And that's just plain BS. So, but the demographics of participation in Braver Angels are a reality. And although I don't like to use labels, we're not going to have the vitality that we need if we don't change the demographic of who participates in Braver Angels.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Jerry. And James, I did see that your hand popped up again. Let's get through some more questions. And if we've got some space, we'll bring you back in for, oh, okay, maybe that was mistaken. But James, thank you very much for your question. Jerry, thank you very much for weighing in. Okay, let us go next to Ms. Barbara Garrity. I believe I hope I said that right. Barbara, let's go ahead and unmute you. Okay.
You actually did say it right, which is amazing.
Excellent.
I think this is my third call. I'm learning a lot about seeing both sides of a discussion after being very polarized myself for a period of time. So I appreciate that, but I feel like the number one thing that I need is practice, having conversations with people with a different point of view. I think of myself as a good communicator. I've spent my whole career in communications, but boy, I am exactly the person that Braver Angels was designed for, because I'm not being effective in communication. I'm getting angry. I'm angering other people. And so I feel like I need practice, and really I would love that. I know the current realities, but I would love some of that to be face-to-face without the technology in the way. So I just wonder, because Braver Angels is offering so much, is there something like that I can get involved in and kind of do the hard practice in a safe environment so that I can become more effective, which is my goal.
Indeed. Well, and we very much applaud your aspiration, Barbara, and believe me, we are all aspiring in the same way. My guess is that Randy Leoz might have some helpful recommendations for us.
Absolutely. So I'm Randy Leoz, the director of events for Braver Angels. And obviously at this point, we have lots of programs that are available through Zoom online, right? And one of the premier things that we talk about in that realm is our one-to-one conversations, where we give you a guide that you can use across several dimensions. So it could be red, blue, it could be urban, rural, it could be, ethnic or racial divides. It could be generational. But I also want to emphasize that a lot of these programs, including those one-to-one conversations, are available for you to use in person, right? So we actually have a page that gives you those conversation guides, and you can print them out. You can use them in a face-to-face conversation with someone. And we absolutely encourage you to do that. At the same time, we have a lot of alliances around the country that are now coming out of hibernation, you might say, out of Zoom isolation, right? And offering more and more in-person workshops and events and experiences and debates, right? And we're getting very excited about that. And a little bit later in the call, we're going to talk about hybrid events, which really mixes the best of both. So, Barbara, I absolutely applaud your impulses to connect with people face to face in the same room. That's fantastic, and we have a lot of ways to do it. So, thanks for asking.
Fantastic. Thank you again, Barbara. Okay, now let's go and pull a couple out of the magic hat here, out of the chat box. Okay, very quickly from Ed Gracely, we have a question. Are the We the People forums recorded and available? I think the short answer to that question is yes, but DLAP, can people see these recordings?
Yes, they're on the Brave Angels YouTube page.
Okay, fantastic. Fantastic. And I don't know if anybody has any bandwidth on the team right now, but if somebody wants to grab a link to the YouTube channel, or maybe even if we have a playlist on there for the We the People's Forum, I think we do. If we do, there might be a helpful link to drop. So we might be able to get around to that in a moment. But you can find them on YouTube, folks. Okay, next question from Kobe Nelson. I come from a working class family and my parents don't have 4-year degrees. However, I have an advanced university degree. Can I still be part of the We the People's project? I really want to stay connected to my roots and listen to the perspectives of others. Okay, well, that is a good question. Mr. Lapp, do you want to take that, or someone else on the team?
You bet. Yeah, Kobe. That is. I saw, by the way, Kobe, where you had signed up to receive information about We the People's Project recently, and you had given a little bit about your background, which is fascinating. And so, Kobe, maybe you can help us figure out how. I think it's an open question. How can people like yourself, who with your background, the short answer is yes. But I think we can do more to think about how people like yourself can help take leadership on our project to reach even more people. So, Kobe, let's be in touch. dlap@braverangels.org, and let's figure out a way to include you and lots of people like you in what we're doing.
Excellent. Thank you.
Okay, fantastic. One more from the chat box here from Anna Callahan. What is being done to involve more people that lean red? What is the percentage right now? I can't, not sure from Anna's question whether or not she means that specifically with respect to the We the People's Project or to the organization more broadly. But David, or maybe Wilk, do you guys want to jump in on that front?
Let me just say, and then I'll ask Wilk to weigh in too, that in terms of We the People's Project, we are very intentional about having on our leadership team a balance of people who lean red, blue, and don't lean either way. And when we assemble first speakers, like on the upcoming one on abortion, it's very important that we have someone who sees themselves as pro-life, pro-choice, and someone who's conflicted about it. So that's very important for the building of our forums and how we roll as a project, and certainly for Brave Angels as a whole. Wilk, you want to weigh in on this as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, one of the big problems, obviously, that Braver Angels has recognized as a whole, and both as a whole and the We the People's Project specifically, is the lack of people from a red perspective getting involved. And that is a complex issue, because we don't want to exclude anybody from becoming involved. So, trying to force one side or the other to either become involved or stay out of the mix is not the real, it just doesn't work. So we're always looking for new and intuitive ways on how we can get more people from a red perspective involved. I think the reality is they are there, they are interested, but oftentimes there are people that just do not want to get involved because they want to be left alone. They want to remain anonymous. They want to be, remain quiet. But I think our job as citizens, our job as people in this project, is to really get out there and talk to our neighbors about Braver Angels, talk to the people that we, and that might be controversial, but talk to the people that we work with, talk to our neighbors, talk to people that you see in the community, and just really brag it up. Talk about how Braver Angels is an opportunity to speak your mind in an environment that is non-judgmental, non-confrontational, and really contentious topics don't have to mean contentious conversations, and we can all get involved. And I think that's the big thing is people from a red perspective, they just don't want to deal with the nonsense that comes along with those conversations from people that really like to get loud and obnoxious. So
Yeah, it can be difficult for many of us to come out of the shell, but I like Wilk's advice. Brag it up, folks. Brag it up and get people in the door. At the end of the day, we are all ambassadors for the work that we do. Okay, let's go back to the room here. Mr. Richard Aberdeen, somewhere out there in the cosmos, it seems. Come down to earth, my friend, and join the conversation. Oh, I'm sorry, Richard. I think we may have had a couple of people trying to unmute you at the same time. Go ahead and click that button. There you go.
I was going to say, after the last committee meeting that aired, I'm lost in space. So I noticed when you presented at the beginning, you were talking, Mr. Wood, that you had a quote called that people refer to as the golden rule. And I'd like to see a discussion on where the golden rule comes from and how important it is or is not to our modern society. And that's not a political discussion, but I think it's a very important. In fact, that's so important that Francis Collins has spent some time discussing that, where it came from and why there is such a thing.
Right.
So
Indeed.
I'd just like to make that a suggestion as a topic.
Okay. Yes, absolutely. Well, duly noted. And yes, the golden rule is the golden rule for a reason, I'd say. And yes, it is a principle that sort of stands as an anchoring sentiment to the larger sort of moral foundation of so much of society. And so your point is well taken. And I do imagine that we could probably facilitate quite a conversation on that front. Maybe Mr. Collins could be a guest in such a program. So it's a good suggestion, Richard. Thank you very much for making it. Okay, fantastic. It looks like we have few enough hands raised, but we still have some questions in the hat here. So let me go ahead and read one from Al Smith. Let's see. Please give us an update on the national growth of Braver Angels, number of members and supporters of states we have alliances in, and how many total alliances. I think I can give you a rough overview. My numbers might be a little out of date, but at present, and I had I think mentioned this before, but we are standing at about 11,000 dues-paying members across the country, about 50,000 or so subscribers to our general sort of email list and content. I think we stand at about 78 Braver Angels alliances, although Randy or DLAP, you guys might be able to correct me if I am wrong about that. And yes, and there are other ways I suppose one might measure growth too. Is the number of states we have alliances in? That's a good question. David, do you know how many states we have active or we have alliances in currently?
I don't have off the top of my head, but I think somebody in this meeting probably does.
I'm pulling up the map right now, and hopefully, all right, we have 78 alliances, and let me count the number of states we don't have alliances in, because that's a lot fewer. 2, 3, 5, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. We don't have alliances in 13 states. Every other state we have at least one, and actually many multiple alliances. In California here, we've got upwards of 8 or 9. So yeah, we've got a really robust network of alliances around the country. Yeah.
Actually, Randy, would you mind just sort of taking off that list of states where we do not have alliances currently for us?
Yes. So I'm looking at the map. It looks like Idaho. Let's see if I can hover. North and South Dakota, Nebraska. What state is this that's square? Let me check my map. Wyoming, yes. Oklahoma, New Mexico, let's see, Alabama, Michigan. I'm very surprised about. I think we have maybe a proto alliance there. I'm not totally sure. I'm looking at Delaware and Rhode Island and Alaska and Hawaii. So those are the states that I do not see alliances in, but there could actually be some proto alliances in some of those states. But if you are in one of those states and would like to start an alliance, we would absolutely encourage you to do so.
Yeah, I was just going to say, Randy, if there are any brave souls in this group tonight who heard their state called and who want to break new ground with Braver Angels where they live, you are more than welcome to do so, and we will support you in the effort. So, thank you very much for that, Randy, and thank you to Al Smith for the question. Let's jump back to the room very quickly. I see Rob Hanson with his hand raised. Rob, go ahead and ask your question or deliver
Sure.
your remark.
It's not a question. It's to defend Idaho. We actually have a very active state group. We haven't formally gone to the alliance piece, but we have a new alliance that's getting formed in the Boise area. And so, anyway, I'm going to go create a state alliance with
Okay.
our existing people. That's nothing. It's easy. Thanks.
No, that's fantastic. Thank you very much for correcting the record there, Rob, or for updating us. And Rob, as long as I have you, my friend, can you settle it for all of us once and for all here? Is it Boise or Boise for those of us who are not, not native?
We don't like to say because that's how we tell the newcomers.
Okay. All right. Well, you keep your secrets then, Rob. That's just there's some utility in that. I can't be mad about it. Okay, fantastic. Thank you very much, Rob. Let's see. Not seeing any more hands raised at present. I'll jump back to the box here because let's see. I do have a question here from
John,
Joanne. Oh, yes.
Sorry, just another. So someone just chatted me that Wyoming has an alliance with Montana. So, it's not reflected on the map because it's registered as a Montana alliance, but they're a joint alliance. So we actually have only 12 states that, 11 states now that we know that Idaho has an alliance as well, and there's probably even more. So I'm really glad to be hearing that stuff.
I gotta be honest with you folks, a bi-state alliance, I didn't even know that you could do that. So, okay. Well, that's good. I'm learning some things myself here, but no, that's excellent information. Thank you, Randy. Okay. So yeah, back to the box here from Joanne Martin Braun. She says, and I think this may be a little similar to earlier comment here. I'm uneasy when we talk about these labels as well. We seem to either use the word class, which is awful, or we define people by what they don't have, a college education. How can we do better with our language? Yeah, well, thank you very much for the comment, Joanne. And again, it's a worthy concern. It is tough, because whatever language we use, I do see value in the distinctions that come in a general way in talking about sort of class and the difference in socioeconomic reality. But let me give you guys a bit of an example, because this is something I talk a fair amount with respect to race, and hopefully I'm not going too far into one political direction or another here. But we talk a lot in America about the Black experience, the African American experience, and of course the Latino experience, and all these other things. I find myself oftentimes sort of trying to make the point that, there's not necessarily a singular sort of uniform, kind of like Black experience, that many things enter into differentiating that. But that one major thing is class. And, I'll talk about the difference between my wife's upbringing and mine. We're both African American, both the same age. We grew up 15 minutes apart from each other. But I grew up in the suburbs in Culver City, Los Angeles County, and my wife grew up in the projects in Watts, right? And, the things we saw, the things that we experienced growing up, the sort of social circumstances that impacted the way life went for our friends, dramatically different, right? And that's a difference that I think sort of, relates very clearly matters of class. Now, that's not to say that, maybe there's not some better language for it, but it's just to say that I think the tension we're always wrestling with is, how do we point to the realities while hopefully, using terminology that can be dignified for folks and, getting that perfectly right, using language that people recognize and understand, right? It's not always the easiest thing, and I'm not going to sit here and pretend that we've wholly figured it out. But maybe that's at least something to think about. Okay, I see Carol von Bruggen. Carol, let's go ahead and ask you to unmute. There we go.
Okay. Can
Okay.
you see me too, or?
I cannot see you. No.
Well, how about?
Carol, I've just asked you to start your video. Hopefully you can. There we go.
There I am. There I
There
am.
you go. Your speaking voice was lovely enough, but now we get to.
Oh,
we get
thank
to
you.
see the
Thank you so
whole-
much.
the whole
So,
thing.
very quickly, I'll let you know that I was I joined Braver Angels years ago, several years, it seems years ago. And when we were meeting and I'm in Sacramento, California, and when I'm not in my other home in Costa Rica, and we met and it was great. And I tended to call myself blue, but I'd come from a red background. And then as I moved along, I went more and more to the middle. And so I had a lot of red leanings and blue leanings. And what I found is that when there were discussions, it was, and I wanted to participate, there was a request for someone who is red and someone that was blue. And when I said, well, I'm really in the middle, I'm so in the middle that because I feel both ways, I wasn't asked to participate anymore. And so I actually lost interest. I mean, I'd listen because I love Braver Angels and I referred it to people, but I just didn't participate anymore. So maybe you can address that. And is that just me that had that experience, or have other people had that experience as well, where they're so in the middle, they don't really get to participate in discussions or debates or whatever?
Yeah, I mean, well, thank you very much, Carol. I'm glad that you gave us your report here, and I do think that that's unfortunate. People do ask us, where do independents, where do unaffiliated fit into Braver Angels with the emphasis on red and blue. The truth is, though, I mean, in terms of how our programs are designed, there a couple of things that you sort of do need to identify as red or blue to be able to participate in. So the Red Blue Workshop is sort of the primary example of that, because that was crafted really sort of to minister to or to mediate the red blue divide specifically. But Braver Angels debates are skills for bridging the divide workshops and other workshops. Certainly, our live programming and so forth. None of that requires anybody to have to identify one way or the other. So yeah, Carol, I'm saddened to hear that you had that experience. That shouldn't be the case.
Well, I rejoined. I'm here to say I rejoined. Here I am tonight.
Right.
But I would love to be able, and I have strong feelings on the red and on the blues. I mean, it just depends on what we're talking about. So it would just, when signing up for things, I really would like to participate. It's just that when I'm asked, what do you consider yourself as, then I don't always get the opportunity to participate. So that was just, we'll see if I can work around that in the future.
Understood. No, I do imagine that we'll be able to, that should not be a serious barrier to your fulsome participation in Braver Angels. And if somehow or the other it seems to be, please get in touch with us. But
I think I'd make a great moderator.
I do. I suspect so too. Okay, Carol. Well, thank you very much. Really appreciate
Thank you.
it. Okay. Wilk, I see you raised your hand, my friend. Really quick, Wilk, you want to jump in with something?
Yeah, I'll just throw this out there real quick because it seems to be a common theme in this conversation. And I did an episode a while back called Labels Get Out of the Box, because, and for this very reason, because a lot of people, they don't like being put in those boxes. And I just want to remind everybody that the only box that you're going to get put in is the one that you agree to be put in. It's not about boxes. It's not about labels. It's not about whether your parents, like Kobe mentioned earlier, but whether your parents were working class and you have a master's degree or an advanced collegiate degree or not, or like James alluded to earlier, and coming from a background like his, coming from the prison system, now being an advanced degree, there is so much that everybody in this country has to provide, and it takes all of us to provide it. It takes all of our perspectives to be part of this, and that's why the We the People's Project is the We the People's Project and not the Working People's Project, is because the Working People's Project was too defined as a organization for maybe people that were whatever. So do not get caught up in the labels. Do not get caught up in the red label, the blue label, the independent label, the working class, the collegiate degree, the advanced degree. It's all about all of us, we the people, and that's what really makes the cake. That's where it all comes from. So
Yeah, indeed. Thank you very much, Wilk. Appreciate you weighing in with your sentiments there. I think others do too. Okay, let's go next now to Daniel Morales. Daniel, go ahead, jump in the conversation. Oh, I think we may have canceled out. Okay, there it is.
There we go. Yeah, I just wanted to address what was just mentioned about not having space for like a purple perspective. I just wanted to throw in that in our current formats, at least with debates and other events, there's absolutely a space for unsure or purple positions to have space to talk. So I don't know if that was like experience from a while ago, but for sure in today's Braver Angels format, we do have space for people that are unsure, just like we mentioned coming up in the We the People's Forum for Abortion, where we actually have somebody that will be sharing that is has a unsure or leans not sure in their current position. So I welcome you to re-engage for sure. There is a place for you.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for that, Daniel. Very welcome response. Okay, let's see here. I'm just going to go to the box really quick. From David Broadwin, are there any depolarization groups that already have a better red membership than we do that we could potentially partner with? That's a very interesting question. God, it's kind of complicated. I mean, the simple answer to that question is no, with the exception of a campus group called Bridge USA that is already our principal partner in producing college debates across America, campuses across the country. And they have a pretty strong red-blue balance in their organization. Outside of that, the truth is that there are, somewhere in the area of like 500, 600 sort of bridge building, sort of depolarization oriented organizations that we know of. Very few of them have a substantial membership base, but among any of the ones that have any sort of membership base, Braver Angels is pretty far ahead in terms of our overall red-blue balance. And what that means is that the sort of depolarization field, if you will, or sort of like this movement that's kind of burgeoning, it hasn't deepened its reach sort of in general in sort of conservative direction in the way that it needs to. Now there are also other groups, folks who are more sort of like social justice oriented activists on campus and other spaces who also tend not to engage so much in this sort of work. And so this is why Reflecting America is important, and it's an ongoing sort of effort on our part to get everybody to the table, because if we don't, we're going to fail to be able to make the impact we need to make. So that's just the reality for the moment. There's more I could say as to why that may be the case. But just know that, Braver Angels, I think, we are sort of ahead of the curve, but we don't want to settle for that. We want to go for genuine and equal representation as much as we can manage it on this front. And so, okay, great. I was going to go to Linda Legge, but Linda, I think your hand came down. Do you still have a question or a comment, or are you okay?
Unmute me.
There we go. Hey, Linda.
Okay. Yeah, I was just going to mention that I am very centrist, I think it was Carol, and I have felt the same way. It's hard to sometimes participate when you need to take a strong partisan view either way. And I'm not the only one. I talked to someone who used to be in Braver Angels, who used to identify red, but had a really hard time because I guess he was more of a centrist red. So I do think that actually is a valid concern. I haven't felt like I couldn't speak up or express a view, but it is hard when you're very centrist. I think in our political society today, there's not much, neither of the parties really speaks to the central. We're being pulled to the two extremes. And so it's true with Brave Angels, it's hard to find your spot, and it's hard to find your spot in either party.
And Linda, if you don't mind my asking you, was this sort of was this an issue of not being able to participate in specific activities because of your sort of center leaning, or was it more of a just kind of a general feeling that I just don't seem to things just don't seem to be set up to sort of invite my perspective, given the fact that I fall in the middle? Or was it particular things or more of a general kind of thing? Or both?
I think it was more of a general kind of thing. I think that there are times when it specifically comes out, and you're thinking, well, I have a much more nuanced opinion of this, and what the conversation is geared toward far left or far right discussion.
I see. Okay. All right. Well, thank you, Linda. I really appreciate that input. And yeah, once again, I'm somebody who thinks of himself as having some views that lie on either side and so forth. I mean, we definitely cannot be content to have folks who are moderate or centrist feel that they don't have a place in Braver Angels. And to the extent to which that may be true for some folks, we can't be complacent with that. So thank you very much, Linda, and others who have made this point. Okay, let's go now to Martha Yeager. If I got that right. Hello, Martha. Unmute yourself and jump in.
Hi.
Hey there.
Yeah, I mean, this is maybe frivolous, but I take comedians seriously. And I'm thinking of two comedians that I feel sort of embody, the various sides. Although Bill Maher is one of them, he's pretty left. And Bill Burr, who seems to just have the whole thing just kind of right inside him. And that might be part of why he has a sort of an angry style. But to me, he's funny. And although, let me just add, don't listen to his podcast. It's crummy. He acts on his stand-up, I feel, kind of covers the spectrum in a good way.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Martha. Shout outs for Bill Maher and Bill Burr. Yeah, it is funny. I mean, comedians these days, they do find themselves in a position of, sort of giving voice to a lot of political frustrations that people have, especially when they feel like they can't voice them, themselves anywhere else. Guys, I'm going to tell you guys something that happened to me the other day, and it is deeply frustrating. I actually I've been locked out of my Facebook for about a couple of months now, and I don't use it very much. I should. So I just got back into it recently. I had a message in my inbox from Bill Maher's associate producers saying they wanted to talk about, maybe having me on to talk about some of the stuff. And I said, yes, that's great. And then I looked at the date. It was from 40 days ago. And so, forgive me, it's pretty frustrating. But maybe we can get some Braver Angels airtime on real time before long. I'm doing my best to see if we can revive the opportunity. Okay, John Kerr. John, it's good to see you, sir. Go ahead and jump in.
Good to see you, John. Good to see you, everybody. To Martha's point just now, John, I challenge you, I invite you to have on the podcast a comedian. Could be Dave Chappelle, it could be Bill Burr, whomever. I mean, exactly to your point, their points of view are super interesting, and they do speak a lot of what many of us think. But I wanted to talk about labels a little bit, because labels happen to us. Labels are brands. Labels are how we are perceived. Labels happen invisibly. And companies, businesses work very, very hard, very often to protect their brands, to develop their brands, to burnish their brands. But nevertheless, their behaviors are what determine how they are perceived. Exactly the same applies to Braver Angels. And in many, many situations where I've been interviewing Braver Angels around the country for the weekday newsletter, I have heard the indication that Braver Angels is judged to some degree as a blue, white, old, largely college educated crowd that Reds want nothing to do with, that young people aren't interested in, that people of color see as way too white for their involvement to be comfortable. So I would challenge the leadership at Braver Angels to really think about how the organization is perceived and to follow the example of businesses to some degree in thinking actively about how to manage the brand of Braver Angels. And I'll just leave it right there.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, no, it's a worthwhile statement. And if we had more time, we could talk in some more depth about, the efforts made to reach out to all the different constituents you've named, and of course the challenges associated with that. But no excuses made. We do need to do better. That's the bottom line, right? And everything is easier said than done. It's worth emphasizing that. But that doesn't mean that we can't commit. That doesn't mean that it's not imperative that we commit to that challenge. And I also appreciate your larger or your initial point about sort of labels being things that are applied to us, right? I think that's a useful perspective as well. Okay, we may only have time for one more question here. I'm going to go to Tina Luma. Tina, go ahead and unmute and go ahead and join us.
Okay, I'm unmuted. Hello, everyone. I am a member, relatively new, like in the last year or so. And I just have a question or comment. I'm not really sure where it is. I do really resonate with the whole, I'm not really a red or a blue. I'm not really anywhere in the middle. And that doesn't really mean that I'm neutral, I do have very strong viewpoints that share both red and blue viewpoints. So, but saying that, I have participated in several of the debates. And there are options when you register for the debates that you can say, I don't lean red or blue. So I appreciate that. But I feel like, I think the debate format is wonderful. But I do find that after where we, have these wonderful debates and we engage with each other, like I'm kind of left afterwards, like, oh my gosh, there's so many, like, I hear so many different opinions and so many things that I want to engage with. And I don't feel like there should be, I don't know if this is possible, but there should be more space for folks to continue to engage after the debates, because I just kind of feel like that piece is missing. Does that make sense?
Oh, it does. Absolutely.
Outside of, different events and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
So I would really like to have more opportunities to really engage with other folks, and because I love to listen as much as I love to contribute, and I just would like more space to do that, whether it be through message boards or through, kind of break off meetings later on. I don't know how that would be set up, or if you
allow me to. Yeah, sure. No, absolutely. And I apologize for interrupting, just in the interest of time, but I do want to acknowledge very much what you were saying, and it does make sense. I think your experience is a valid one. Part of what is true and sort of, the challenge of the riches that we have at Braver Angels is that on the one hand, we have lots of opportunities for people to engage each other in different ways, right? But those opportunities aren't necessarily equally available to everybody. And what I mean by that is, if you are somebody who participates in a Braver Angels debate, online or on campus or something, but then you have a Braver Angels Alliance in your community locally, you can sort of carry on the conversation there, with folks in your neck of the woods. And there's going to be a whole new sort of localized universe for engagement. Or maybe there's, sort of a campus in which you've got Braver Angels members or interactions with Bridge USA and so forth, that you can do other things. Some of us, met each other at the national conventions, a few years ago. Some of us are connected on social media and sort of Braver Angels Facebook groups, etc. But not everybody is equally sort of linked to these other spaces that go beyond an individual program. And because of capacity limitations and just the fact that we're still figuring out how to better organize this evolving kind of organism, we don't always do the best job of like linking people from one experience to another, And so I think that's something where we come up short a bit that we also have to improve upon. Your comment reminds me of that. So thank you very much, Tina. I really appreciate your comment. And thank you for being a new member. Very exciting to see you. Look forward to seeing you again. Great. Okay, folks, I'm afraid we are going to have to pivot to the next part of our activities. I do want to just read one neat little comment I saw here in the box. Dorothy Mack says, maybe there could be a workshop made up of centrists where they would each say what issues they lean one way and what issues they lean the other way on. It would be interesting to see how they vary. And that's a great point. You can have two people who call themselves centrists who disagree on everything, right? Which is sort of the interesting thing about that as the label. Okay, fantastic. Folks, I'm about to turn it back over to checking my instructions here. Back over to Randy and the members of the Western Washington Alliance. But let me just say, stay to the end of the call today if you can. We have a wonderful music video from Alma Cook, who some of you may be familiar with as our preeminent sort of musical talent and leader at the Braver Angels Music Committee. Actually, we've got a lot of talented folks there. But you'll want to see this song in particular if you're interested in the subject of lifting up the voices of working people. Yeah, you're going to enjoy it. But first, Randy, go ahead and tell us who our other special guests and much valued members are here today.
Yeah, thanks so much, John. So I am really excited for this next segment. John, your comment about linking people across geographies and across very disparate situations in this country, I think is apropos to our next segment, because as director of events, I'm really excited about the potential for hybrid events as we go forward. Where we actually even have special cameras that allow us to see an entire room of people, so we can link people across Zoom who are physically gathered together. And this next segment gives us a great opportunity to showcase that technology. So I am so excited to introduce the Western Washington Alliance. That is, they're centered around the Seattle area, but they are pretty expansive across Western Washington. And I want to introduce my colleague and very good friend, Mary Beth Stibbins, who is going to introduce her friends in the Western Washington Alliance. And I'm going to spotlight that alliance right now so they can introduce themselves.
When I start talking, the camera may turn to me. So we have this OWL technology in the center of the room, and there are 7 of us together here in person. And I'm going to go around and just introduce folks and ask them to just say a quick hello, and then the OWL will focus on them. And then I'll just tell you a couple of the things that we're doing and excited about out here in Western Washington. So let's see, we have Chris Cook here, and she's the one that runs our newcomer welcome meetings. And then we've got, I need you to say something, Chris, so the OWL will turn towards you. Hello, everybody. All right. And then we have Janelle, who you heard from earlier with the We the People Forum, and Janelle's in several other committees and teams and Braver Angels too. Hello. Okay. And we've got Charmin here, and Charmin is our regional and state lead for Western Washington. Hello. And we have Lorraine here, and Lorraine is one of our moderators, and some of you may know her because she facilitates a mini workshop on elevator speeches.
Hi, everybody.
And then we also have Skip here, who's a relatively new member to our alliance, and he brings a wonderful background in public relations to us.
Hey there.
All right.
Hello, picture. Hello.
It's a picture joining
I'm on camera all day long.
I know, it's
There you
fair.
Oh, here I am. Hello.
Oh, you spoke, you're right.
Here I am.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. And last but not least, we have Elizabeth with Braver Politics here. Hello. All right. And we have Ben here, one of our other moderators, but he had to leave. And of course, we've got lots of other wonderful people in our alliance. And it's so nice to be able to have activities in person again. And some of the things that we've been doing lately, we've done 3 of the Braver Politics neighborhood conversations this past month. And we had 6 different conservative candidates or elected officials as part of those. And next we're going to be doing liberal and progressive elected officials and candidates. So I'm really excited to do some more of those. We've been staffing some exhibits and booths also for Braver Angels. Janelle's got one that we're going to be doing this weekend. We've been trying to do talks in the community, reaching out to the Rotary. Several of the Rotaries have contacted us. We've got someone in our organization, in our alliance also picking up on what was mentioned earlier about being able to continue the conversations after you've gone to workshops. So we're developing a platform for continuing the conversations. We've got a new alliance that is forming. We're doing some connecting with schools and churches. We've got a debate and a town hall and a red-blue workshop coming up. So we're pretty excited about the opportunities here. And if there's anyone in the audience that would like to collaborate with us on any event, sometimes we'll work with alliances in other areas like Texas, for instance. We're happy to partner with other alliances on activities, or if you happen to be in this neck of the woods and we don't know about you yet, please reach out to us because we'd love to connect with you as well too. And we welcome any questions. So back to you, Randy.
Okay, well, so with that, do you want to see if there are 1 or 2 questions for the Western Washington Alliance? You can still raise your Zoom hand. And if we wanted to spotlight other folks in the room who may want to answer some questions, that would be great as well. Barbara Garrity does say that she'd like to connect with your alliance. So hopefully you can connect with Mary Beth. And Mary Beth, did you list your email address?
My email in the chat, yes.
Okay, great, excellent. All right. And any questions for the Western Washington Alliance folks? Okay, I'm not seeing questions come up. Okay, well, one thing that I did want to mention, and thank you so much, Mary Beth, for bringing the group together, for gathering them around for us to see, not only how an amazingly robust and active alliance, schedules their events throughout the year, but also, to demonstrate this technology. Obviously, people have to be speaking for a few seconds before the camera hones in on you. Obviously, there's some lighting issues that you got to manage, but we're just very excited about the potential for people to connect across geography here. And what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to remove the spotlights, but I'm going to put a link into the chat. If other alliances would like to request some of these hybrid event cameras, they're called Meeting Owl cameras, and we have a partnership where we've actually distributed cameras to 6 alliances so far around the country, and we have 4 more alliances that we can get these cameras to. And as John mentioned, I mean, connecting across geographical divides, I think there is so much potential to that. I've been talking to folks around the organization that get really excited about the potential for those sorts of events. We can do it with red blue workshops. I've kind of conceptualized a way to do that. So if there are alliances that are interested in doing that, you can certainly ask. And so yes, we would definitely love for more alliances to get experience with this as we're leading up to our convention next year in about a year's time. And we are also planning to use this technology there. So please go ahead and engage with it. And we hope that more alliances kind of dive in and start using this tech. So with that, I want to turn it back over to John.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Randy. Thank you very much, Western Washington. And thank you very much, Mary Beth. Mary Beth, I was seeing you from a couple of different angles there. It seemed like each side like each side was your good side. So I don't know. Maybe you don't have a good side. That's my conclusion. Okay, folks. Well, this is fantastic. Now, I believe that we have a link that is dropped or will be dropped in the chat for anybody who wants to get involved in the We the People's project. There we go. I see. Thank you very much, Amy, for dropping that in there. For folks who want to get involved or stay up to speed on the work of the We the People's project, there is a special list you can get on to connect you with that group directly. And so do very much feel free to do so. And everybody on this call, I believe, is a member. But if anybody snuck in, naughty, but that's okay. You can still redeem yourself by joining us as a member officially. And I think we may have a link there as well. And so brag it up, folks. Brag up the work of Braver Angels. Feel good about being a part of this. I certainly do. And recognize the fact that our country is in need of healing, but that's something that we can be proactive about, you know? So it really matters that we are here together doing the work that we do in the spirit of friendship that we are committed to. And so last but not least here, we have a closing musical selection from Alma Cook, Braver Angels music ambassador. Unfortunately, Alma couldn't be here today, but she's got a remarkable story and a remarkable vocation. I met her in Los Angeles. She was a singer-songwriter in Los Angeles, but she also runs an oil and gas regulatory compliance company in Williston, North Dakota. And in the oil fields of Williston, North Dakota, she found herself coming to deeply love and appreciate the culture and the humanity and the goodness of the folks who work hard out in the oil fields there. And she wrote a song as a tribute to these Americans, often unsung for their toil. And so, folks, I'm about to present you with the beautiful piece of music here. If we can rev that up. The song is called 5,000 Candles. I hope you enjoy it. We all look forward to seeing you again towards the end of next month for another Braver Angels member meeting. Thank you all very much. Let us build a house united.
And I'm just going to leave the evaluation link up for a quick second. The link for that is in the chat, and once people have been able to access that QR code with their cameras, if they'd like, or through the chat, or entering that URL directly, we're going to go ahead and play this song.
There's a lot of people running their mouth that don't stay the night, never come through town. And some other people running about that don't take the time to suss you out. Still some of us every night we make a toast to you. Like, isn't it nice that somebody had the presence of mind to speak up for you? Let there be light. I know it doesn't make me one of a kind that I came to you at an opportune time. And it doesn't mean I'm one of the guys, but I'm grateful you came and opened my eyes. Still none of us up in the play, we don't think enough about the beauty we make. It's all work here every day, but when the lights go out, it's then that I say, sad to behold, nothing you could do will make me go. We'll let the world judge what they don't know. Giving me a heartbeat, making me never and soon enough I'll see that I'm crazy for loving you the way that I do, because who could love somebody like you? They say you're too damn small, and I won't pretend it don't matter at all. But no matter what the trouble ahead, I still won't regret this time that I spent. Start to behold, nothing you could do will make me go. We'll let the world judge what they don't know. Giving me a heartbeat, making me never wanna leave. We'll let the world judge, 'cause they don't see 5,000 candles, 5,000 candles burning bright. All the light you could handle, 5,000 candles here at night. 5,000 candles, 5,000 candles burning bright. All the light you could handle, 5,000 candles here at night. I wanna know who did that. Show me the match that lit that sky. Look at all those candles, ode to the light that caught my eye. Never could forget that steam in my breath, and I know mine. 5,000 candles, 5,000 candles here at night.
Good night, everyone. Till next time.
Wonderful song. I like that. I like the video.